Pistols in first-person shooters are rarely the best guns in the game, or even guns you use that often. They're normally just backups you use when your primary runs out of ammo.
Remember, switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
But occasionally, pistols break that mold to become something special. Hey everybody, as always Jarek here, and in this video we're going to be covering the best pistols in first-person shooter history. Some rules. These pistols have to have been in first-person shooters, so third-person shooters and the like do not count. So Dead Space may have a great pistol, but it does not qualify for this video. The next thing is that I have to have played the game. If you think I've missed a pistol, the chances are I've just not played the game the pistol is from. The next thing is that you can only have one pistol per franchise. Otherwise you'd have like 20 Halo pistols or something. And the last rule is that machine pistols that are basically submachine guns, like say the Scorpion or the MP9, do not qualify for this list. I'm sorry, but when people think of pistols, they think of actual pistols. Automatic pistols, like say the Glock 18, do count, however. I also put out a poll and let you guys vote for what you thought the best pistol in FPS history was, so we'll see how that turns out at the end of this video. Before we start this list, we need to thank today's sponsor, Opera GX. Opera GX is the first browser for gamers. It's what I use on a day-to-day basis. Now when I say this is the first browser for gamers, I don't mean they just have a bunch of RGB, although you do have a lot of customization as to how you want your browser to look. Choose any color you want. As a reminder, red and black is the optimal color scheme. But that's not why they advertise this browser as being the first browser for gamers. No, that's all the extra features you get. Up in the top left here, you have the GX Corner. This will tell you new games that are coming out, what games are on sale, and it doesn't matter what platform you play on, it will give you updates. Over on the left here, you have GX Control, which gives you access to your CPU limiter, network limiter, and RAM limiter. So if you're sick of Google Chrome eating all your RAM, you can now limit it in Opera GX. Also on the left sidebar here is a slew of integrations. Fully integrated with Discord, integrated with Facebook, integrated with WhatsApp. If you can think of it, there's probably an integration in Opera GX. My favorite integration is the Twitch integration, which allows you to see who's online without having to rely on their notifications not working or having to go to Twitch. This kind of gets me in trouble because I'll actively see people streaming as I'm editing, and then I'm watching them streaming, and now I'm not editing. I need more self-control. And the last integration I want to talk about is GX Player, which allows you to use Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube Music right from the sidebar. I'm one of those weird people that doesn't use any of those services, so I can't really show it off, but the option is there. Opera GX is genuinely a good browser. I'm not saying that because they're paying me, I'm saying that because I use it on a day-to-day basis. Also, it's free, so if you want to try it out, check that link down below in the video information. Thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video, and let's continue on with this list. Let's start with the Half-Life Revolver. This could come from any of the Half-Life games. Half-Life 1, Black Mesa, Half-Life 2, the revolver serves the same function in every one. And that function is to be a pocket sniper that can kill most enemies with a single headshot. There's something amazingly satisfying about this hand cannon, especially since Half-Life doesn't really have a proper sniper. Yeah, the crossbow plays that role, but the revolver is hit scan. Needless to say, if you ask someone to think of a revolver in a video game, chances are the first thing they say is the Half-Life revolver, and there's a good reason for that. Next up on the list is the Titanfall Smart Pistol, the only one here that I absolutely despise. I don't even want to talk about this thing, it's just an aimbot pistol. It aims for you, you don't even need to be good. Screw this thing. Moving right along, we go to the Red Orchestra 2 C96, once it's fully leveled up. By default, it's just a lowly little C96. An okay pistol, but nothing you really want to have to use. However, as you level it up, it'll get a stock, an extended magazine, and the ability to turn it fully automatic. Effectively, you turn this gun into an M712, and in video game purposes, that means you have a pocket PPSH. It has the same fire rate, the same damage, and is incredibly deadly. However, it takes such a long time to get to level 50 that you won't see many people running with this, and that's probably a good thing, because it's a little busted for a secondary. Battlefield has quite a few different pistols we could list here. My mind immediately wants to go to the Glock 18 in Battlefield 3. I always felt like I was cheesing people by just pulling out the Glock 18, spraying everywhere, getting a free kill, then acting like I was better than them. But for this slot, I really want to focus on Battlefield 1 instead. Battlefield 1 actually has quite a few different good pistols. The most obvious frontrunner is the Mars Automatic. In video game functionality, this is just a World War I Desert Eagle. It is also limited to the Recon class, which is a perfect fit. It forces that Recon to stay accurate even with their sidearm. With that said, it's still accurate from the hip and typically kills in 2 shots. For Recon, that's a perfect backup, but I believe there are better pistols in Battlefield 1. In one of the DLCs, they released the M1912. Now this counts as a primary in-game, but I mean, come on, that's a pistol. It's a fully automatic pistol that just rips people apart. The fire rate and damage output is absurd, and it quickly became one of my favorite guns in the game. If you played Assault and used guns like the Automatico, you're going to feel right at home with this thing. However, there's one really big downside. the reload. It doesn't have a detachable magazine, so you have to load it with stripper clips, and if you don't have the perfect amount, well, you're loading one bullet at a time. This can be really painful, but the type of gun this is to get one kill, go back around the corner, reload, get another kill, rinse and repeat. If you don't have time to reload, you still have a secondary or even better dynamite to toss around the corner. Assault has a lot of killing power in Battlefield 1, and this complements the 1912 perfectly. However, I believe another pistol since then has replaced the 1912. Since the launch of the game, a few weapons were locked off to tanker and pilot kits. This effectively meant that unless you were the first person to spawn in a tank or a plane, you were never going to use these guns, so you never saw them. And one of these guns was the F.E.A.R Stop Auto. This thing effectively does everything the 1912 does, but with a much better reload. It is one of the most deadly pistols I have seen in any game. And in one of the later patches for Battlefield 1, they decided to no longer make these weapons exclusive to the tanker and pilot kits. So now you can just spawn with a F.E.A.R Stop Auto. Coincidentally, the next game in the list is Call of Duty, because the Call of Duty vs Battlefield thing will never end. There's a few Call of Duty pistols people will immediately think of, like for example the Call of Duty 4 Desert Eagle, which was just blatantly the best pistol in the game. Or if you're like me, your mind will go to Black Ops 2, where all of the pistols were basically just miniature versions of primaries, at least if you're talking in a video game sense and how effective they are. That's also with the exception of the Executioner, because that thing kinda sucked. Anyway, for me the two standouts were the Cap 40 and the B23R. I remember making loadouts with no primary, just running the B23R, going flawless, getting attack dogs and swarm. It was a lot of fun. Now those pistols are great, but they're not game breaking. No, the pistol I want to focus on from Call of Duty is game breaking. That's the 357 from Modern Warfare 2019. Not the 357 on itself, no. It's once you unlock Snake Shot for it. If you don't know what Snake Shot is, well, it's exactly what the name sounds like. In this case, this is a 357 cartridge, but instead of firing one bullet, it fires a bunch of lead BBs like a shotgun. As the name suggests, this was made to take out snakes. That may sound cruel, but in certain places of the world, snakes are an actual problem. I used to go whitewater rafting down the Deschutes River in Oregon, and rattlesnakes are a big threat around there. So our guide would always carry a 22 pistol with them just in case something happened. Anyway, point being, Snake Shot in real life is not tremendously powerful. It wouldn't kill a person, it would just really hurt. But in this game, for a while, it was the strongest shotgun in the game. Yes, I'm not kidding you. Your secondary revolver was the best shotgun you could get in the game. Not only did it just get ridiculous one-shot kills, but now that's your secondary, your pistol. You don't even need overkill to carry a shotgun on you. You just have one. The balancing mechanic they had for this is that it took longer to pull your pistol out when you loaded it with Snake Shot unless you used the perk Amped. So there was no downside if you did, and that's not much of a downside anyway. Needless to say, this was truly busted. Before we get to number one, here's some quick honorable mentions. The Golden Gun from GoldenEye. I don't need to explain why. It's not on this list just because I don't really play GoldenEye much. The Wandig from Counter-Strike, again, it's not on this list because I don't really play Counter-Strike and have never really gotten into it, but clearly it should at least be in the honorable mentions. Next up is the Rainbow Six Vegas 2 Raging Bull. When it came to Vegas 2, the Raging Bull was clearly the best pistol in the game, but it wasn't really broken, and I think it just misses being good enough to be on this list. And the last honorable mention is the pistols from F.E.A.R. These are just as good as the other early game primaries you get, and they're a ton of fun to use. Plus it's F.E.A.R. When can you go wrong with F.E.A.R? But again, I don't think it's necessarily game-breaking or good enough to be on this list. So next up we go to number one. And to avoid this list being incredibly boring, I'm going to go ahead and take the Halo Combat Evolved Magnum and toss it out. The Combat Evolved pistol is just objectively the best pistol in first-person shooter history, and it's not even close. Getting a 3-shot in multiplayer is one of the most satisfying things you can ever do. I mean, let's be real, this is just a DMR and a pistol skin. If this instead looked like a DMR, you wouldn't have thought anything about it. So let's give this thing its own classification. Instead of being number one on this list, it just gets its own god tier. It's so much better than everything else, the others don't even deserve to be in its presence. Alright, so what am I putting at number one? I'm going to go ahead and put the Killing Floor Desert Eagles. I'm specifically talking about the Killing Floor 2 Desert Eagles here. Tripwire really gets their guns down right, and to be honest, I could list almost any of Killing Floor's pistols. They all feel amazing. Even the Mark 23s in the first game feel like a powerful hand cannon, despite just being 45s. And in Killing Floor 2, you also have an even more powerful pistol than the Desert Eagle, the 500 Magnum. However, for the sake of legacy, I'm going to choose the Desert Eagles. Something about that big firing coming out of the barrel in slow motion is just so so good. Yeah, you probably should aim and take your headshots, but something about just dumping magazines into enemies is so cathartic. So hey, there you go. There's my list. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I also let you guys vote. I put these same pistols in a straw poll, put out a big @everyone in my Discord, and told them to vote for 2. The reason I said to vote for 2 is because in my mind, the CE Magnum is so much better. Everyone would just vote for the CE Magnum if they only could vote for 1, and that's not very interesting. So in all reality, I'm wanting them to vote for 2nd place, not 1st place. I just put that out, and this video is not going live for a few weeks after I record this, so let's give people some time to vote for these guns and let future me come back and see how it turned out. What the heck happened here? I gave it a few days, I noticed the votes slow down to almost a stop, and this is not at all how I thought the votes were going to end up. I fully expected the Comet Evolved Magnum to be so far in 1st place that it wouldn't even matter. And yeah, there is still a sizable gap between number 1 and number 2, but I was expecting like 80% of the votes. But even after that is not quite how I thought things were going to go. The Half-Life 2 revolver getting a lot of votes makes sense. Half-Life is an incredibly popular franchise, and it's a really satisfying revolver, so not too surprising. The Titanfall Smart Pistol is pretty notorious for what it is, so it being up there also makes sense, but what did not make sense to me is the massive jump between the Smart Pistol and the Killing Floor Deagles. Are you kidding me? Now this one really surprised me, because I more or less grew this channel on Killing Floor back in the day, and I know a lot of my viewers play Killing Floor, so this not being voted more doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying your opinion is wrong, I'm just very surprised. The ones below it also don't surprise me. They're things that people don't usually get a chance to use. Unlocking the snake shot for the revolver takes a while, and the 357 by default really sucks, so most people didn't bother. If it was easier to unlock, you would have heard a lot of people complaining about how busted it is. A very similar thing could be said about the C96, but even more extreme. It takes forever to get this thing up to level 50, and in a game like Red Orchestra, you're probably not going to want to use your secondary. And I'm willing to bet that in Battlefield 1, vast majority of players have literally never used the Farmer Stop Auto because it requires you to grind out the tank or pilot classes. So unless you're like the 2% of players that actually have it and can use it, you might not even know about it. On top of this, like I said, you couldn't even use it in a regular class until a patch very late on in its lifespan. Most people probably had moved on by then. Hell, the only reason I had it unlocked is because the Origin store had something for $5 where you could unlock everything in the game. At that point, I did have everything else unlocked except for the tanker and pilot kits, so screw it, I didn't want to grind those out, I don't care. The shortcut is usually $40 by the way. Stay classy, EA. So there is my list of the best FPS pistols of all time. If you guys want to vote on this poll, I put a link down below in the pinned comment. Vote for 2. Let's see how this turns out. As always, a big thanks to people that join me over on Twitch when I stream. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe on Twitch, you get to see my videos ahead of time. Another big thanks goes to my sponsor, Opera GX. Check that link down below in the video information. It is free. Thank all of you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.